It's been over 250 days since we've been able to say it, but Utah fans, it's game day. Who's in for a big night inside Rice-Eccles Stadium as Utah welcomes the Thunderbirds in to kick off the 2024 campaign? That's what we'll be discussing on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're in the market for a second listen, make sure you check out Locked On Big 12 to learn about what other big games are going on around Utah's new conference. Also, check out Locked On College Football. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast with zero sugar and convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. You can go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off. That's Locked On CFB, all caps, no spaces, to get 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on your order and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com. And I apologize if I sound like I've had a 5 Hour Energy because I'm fired up that it is game day. It has been 274 days since Utah has played at home against Colorado. That comes to an end tonight. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by friend of the show, Dante Guardi, kind enough to hop on with me and preview this game for Utah, which, of course, it's not a massive game. It's Southern Utah. The last time these two teams played each other, it was 73-7. But I don't care. Dante, it's Utah football, and I'm so glad to have it back, especially as we kick off this new era as a member of the Big 12.
Yeah, most definitely. That Florida State game last weekend kind of got the wheels in motion, and obviously it's great to have the Utes kicking off their season. And looking forward to what's going to be a game where I feel like nothing's going to be decided for certain, but we're going to get a better idea of who are going to be the key contributors at some of the spots that we're not necessarily sure about. Like running back is a big one, for example. So this game's going to present an opportunity for a lot of younger guys to make an impact, and for some other guys who have had a couple of years in the program to also give fans a taste of their game.
Absolutely agree. With the game getting underway tonight, what I want to do is just talk about what I expect in this game for Utah, which players I think will pop. And actually, we're going to close the show with giving some season stat predictions for the top Utah players. Gave my season predictions on yesterday's show, and I did go bold, said Utah will be not just Big 12 champs, but one of the last four teams remaining in the country, and their quest to do that begins tonight. And mentioned the game last time Utah played Southern Utah, right? 73-7. It was an absolute demolishing of Southern Utah. But the Thunderbirds are better this year. They're coming off a 6-5 campaign. When Utah last faced them, they were coming off a 1-win campaign. It was Coach Fitzgerald, who's now the coach of the Thunderbirds. It was his first season. He's got his guys in, and he's got some strong players, right? You look at a guy like who's coming back, running back, Braylon Whistler. He's a guy who had 686 yards, also 186 receiving yards last year. Gets some returners along the defensive line as well. So this is a better team than the one Utah demolished. And I do not think Utah is going to throw 70 up there. If they played Cam Rising the entire time, I think they would throw 70 up there. But that's not what I think is going to happen in this one. In fact, I think most of Utah's starters will be out by halftime. Could some of the guys play a little bit more? Sure. But I think Utah's better. And I think the thing I'm also most excited about, Dante, is just to see these games against FCS opponents when you execute correctly, like I expect Utah to do. This Utah team, I think, will end the season as one of the 5 best teams in college football. So when I have you projected to do that, I think you're going to take care of business against the FCS team, obviously. So I expect the execution to be crisp. This is just the game that's going to build a lot of hype because things are going to look really good. I just think we're all going to be leaving this game fired up and encouraged. And I think one of the reasons that is I do think Cam Rising will throw 3 touchdowns passes in the first half, showing off his new weapons. I think Dorian Singer is going to get 2 of them, and I do think that Brant Keithy is going to haul one in as well. As a nice welcome back to Rice-Eccles Stadium as well. But I see a big first half for this offense.
I agree. I think the offense is most definitely going to explode in the first half, and like you said, I expect the starters to be out by halftime pretty firmly. And as I mentioned previously, I don't expect this game to decide anything for certain when it comes to position battles. Like I said, it's more so just going to give fans kind of a gauge for what to expect out of certain players who obviously we haven't seen suit up in a Utah uniform yet. But the one player that I do want to highlight, and I do expect him to have a big game, is Mike Mitchell, the running back. Kyle Whittingham mentioned him along with Jalen Glover and Mekhi Bernard as the three guys that have been kind of spearheading the running back room, although there's not necessarily a clear-cut number one. And I think it speaks volumes to Mitchell's game, the fact that he's being mentioned alongside two guys that have been here for – I mean, Mekhi Bernard, he's been here since I was a freshman in college, so that's 4 years for sure, maybe even more than that. And then Jalen Glover, obviously, this is his third season with the Utes. So these are two guys that are more so veterans than anything. And Mike Mitchell, as a redshirt freshman, I think it speaks volumes to his game that he's being mentioned alongside a couple of proven guys like that in the running back room. And I mean, I was reading an article earlier today about the Arizona Cardinals rookie running back Trey Benson, and they were mentioning how great his frame was. And I mean, he was 6 foot 216. Mike Mitchell's a freshman in college, and he's 6 foot 211. I mean, he was an extremely highly touted player coming out of high school, and he's got a great blend of size and speed. And I expect him to be the breakout player for Utah's offense this season. And I think this is a game where he'll be eager to showcase his skill set. And I don't expect him to disappoint. That's for sure.
I totally agree. I think Mike Mitchell is going to lead this team in rushing yards. I have him going for 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. And if we're doing like strange predictions, I think he's going to end up being one of the guys after the game we see in the post game up on the podium talking to reporters. I think he'll have that type of an effort. But there's a lot. Yes, we're excited to have football back. That's the biggest thing. I already said that myself. But if you're like, okay, who are you most excited to see play? Cam, in terms of making sure he's healthy? Yes. But in terms of making his debut, I think we're going to get to see Isaac Wilson. And I think that's incredibly exciting. He played his last game of high school football inside Rice-Eccles Stadium, winning the state championship in 2023. And he gets to kick off his campaign there as well. And I do think he's going to look really good. I think he's going to throw for over 100 yards. We'll see how in games like this where he's going to get in a blowout. I don't know if he's going to get to over 200 yards because they might just be looking to run the ball frequently. But I do think Wilson's going to look nice. I think he's going to give us a couple of highlight-worthy plays through the air. I actually am surprised. I do have Money Parks leading us in receiving yards. Is a little bit of a repeat from the first game last year when he led Utah in receiving yards, although he'll do it on more than just one reception like he did with last year's passing attack. I do think Tayshawn Lyons is a guy who in the second half will also notice, who's going to make at least one impressive grab, 4-star talent that I'm excited to see. And as a final offensive prediction, I do think this new look offensive line will look pretty good. I could see them having a mishap and giving up a sack and something of that nature just because they are so new and, young players like Caleb Bloom is his first start at left tackle. So like if he gets beat one, he's going to get beat for sure just because it's his first ever start, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. And I do think we're going to be feeling very strong about the way this offense looks at the conclusion of this game against the Thunderbirds.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, like we both said, the offense is going to have their way, especially when the starters are in. And I expect that to continue even when the starters aren't. And like you said, Isaac Wilson potentially making his debut, it's pretty special. And while I don't expect Andy Ludwig to really open up the playbook a ton for him, I do think that they'll let him have his moment or two. And I do expect him to make some cool plays and get the crowd fired up for what's to come. But my other, I guess, hot take for this game would be, I believe Utah's defense is going to score a touchdown, hopefully another pick six to add to that impressive pick 6U resume. But I see either Lander Barton or Karene Reed making a big play, either against the run, forcing a fumble that gets taken back to the house, or even a pick. I mean, both those guys are just absolute game wreckers, and they're more so leaders now on Utah's defense. So I expect them to be keen to make an impact early on and really set the tone for Utah's defense going forward all around. I mean, against the run and the pass, because that this is a unit that just thrives when they're feeding off of each other more than anything. And the linebackers, I think, are the most key to setting the tone. And I think they'll do just that because it's one of the strongest units on the team.
I agree. I think this defense is going to be outstanding. And I want to talk about my defensive predictions as well as Dante. I agree. I think someone is taking it into the end zone. And I do think that pick six streak is continuing. But I'm going to tell you who I think is going to do that and which players on the Utah defense are going to excel in one moment. But first, let's talk about our friends at 5 Hour Energy. You can grab a 5-hour energy and it gives you the shot you needed to stay alert when you're watching your favorite teams and games. We're all going to be staying up to check out Utah, of course, but even Friday, there's some Thursday, Friday, there's some fun games. So you might need that energy boost come Saturday to keep your college football marathon rolling on. And that's where 5-hour energy comes in to help you out, because if you stayed up late to see that intense overtime game, you need that 5-hour energy to start your day. 5-hour energy is a brand for hardworking people like you, and they have been trusted by customers for over 20 years to give them the alert, energized feeling they need to get through a busy and hectic day. You always know where to find 5-hour energy shots too, right at the cash register and nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. Stock up on money saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5-hour energy shots. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5, so not spelled out, the number 5, at hourenergy.com, and get some 5-hour energy products today. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB, that's all caps, no spaces, to receive $20 off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. You can go to 5hourenergy.com today to see what they have cooking at 5-Hour Energy. Also want to tell you guys about something exciting got the opportunity to do at the Locked On Podcast Network. College football is back, and it's not too late to catch up before the season kicks off. With the SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and especially Big 12, you can get it all from Locked On stable of college football experts by subscribing to the Locked On College Football Podcast. Who has a chance to make the playoff? What team will cause chaos in their new conference? Utah. Everything you need to know all in one place. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On College Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Did shoot something briefly with the other Locked On hosts. We're going to be doing that each week too, where we talk about all the biggest games in the Big 12. We did not spend a lot of time on Southern Utah, not surprisingly, this week, but some fun matchups going on. Penn State, West Virginia. Is Colorado going to get upset week 1? I'm curious to see how that one shakes out. So lots of fun things going on across Utah's newest conference, the Big 12. And one thing I'm really fired up, Dante, about this tonight, we're going to get to see is this Utah defense flying around, making plays. I'm going to say it right now. This will not be 73 to 7. I just don't see that happening. I think that was just one of those things where this Southern Utah team was so bad that they're clearly so much better. There's such a difference between a 6-5 team and coming off that type of season than coming off a 1-10 year, that I just think this team will be better. I do think they'll get a field goal in the first half. I think they'll hit a couple of big plays. This is still week 1. There's going to be a defensive lapse or two by Utah, and Southern Utah will be ready to go and come in. So I think they'll make a couple plays in the first half. I expect the halftime score to be something like 31-34-3. And then in the second half, the Utah defense will still be pretty strong, but some of the backups will give up some plays. But I think this is a one I still see Utah controlling all the way through, and the defense I do expect to be exceptional. Dante, who are some of the individual guys? You mentioned Lander and Corene for a big play. Who are the individuals you think are really going to stand out in this one?
I'm looking forward to seeing Teo Johnson at safety. I thought he was impressive at the slot corner position last season, but I really liked his speed and his instincts, and I think he's got a good build too. So I think safety is just a really good fit for him all in all. Whereas in the slot, you're more expected to play man-to-man coverage against speedier and smaller receivers. Whereas safety, you're more so just that last line of defense, and I feel like that role kind of suits Teo Johnson's skill set a little bit better. So I'm excited to see him out there. And then there's also because the safety position isn't 100% certain yet, I feel like there's still a little bit of room for somebody to kind of separate themselves as the starter. So there's a lot of competition within that room, and Teo Johnson's the guy that I expect to come out on top. But I like the fact that there are people pushing other people pushing for the job as well, and not making it like easy on him, especially given that it's a new position for him, different than last year being in the slot. So I'm expecting Teo Johnson to come out and make a couple of good plays. We actually had a very similar first half score prediction. I have 35-3, and I have Utah I have Utah winning the game 52-10. I expect the first half to be pretty much fireworks from the Utah offense. I think that's the best way to put it. Without fireworks, mainly on the ground. I think maybe a couple play action shots as well, just to show off a little bit, if you will. But in the second half, I expect Utah to really just pound the rock and try to just get out of the game with as the least injured they can possibly be.
Yeah.
So I expect them to just run the ball, chew the clock for the second half, get out of the game with a sound victory and starting the season off on the right foot. And because of that, like I said, Mike Mitchell earlier, I think he's going to have a big second half, mainly because I expect him to be kind of the guy that Utah leans on during the second half, given that he's been talked a lot about by the coaching staff, but the fans really haven't seen a whole lot of him in the game yet. So I think that he'll be the guy that they kind of lean on because he hasn't seen a lot of game action, and this is just a good opportunity for him to see game action, whereas the other guys that he was on the same level as, according to Coach Witt, Jalen Glover, Mekhi Bernard, obviously they have a ton of experience. So I feel like we just need to see a little bit of Mike Mitchell because we've heard a lot about him, and I think he's going to be a fantastic player and a great contributor to this Utah offense. You said you think he's going to lead the team in rushing. I believe that as well. So it's awesome that we're all on the same page, and can't wait to see one of Utah's most highly touted running back prospects perform at a high level.
Yeah, him, Dejon Stanley, John Randall, now a cornerback, surprisingly, but that 2023 class at running back was elite. Wouldn't be surprised to see Stanley break one in the second half of this game, because I do think him being the fourth string guy, like you talked about, Utah wants to stay healthy, right? So I just don't think there's a lot of reason to run Mekhi Bernard much in this game. There's not a lot of reason to run Jalen Glover in this game. And I think by the end of the season, we'll look at Mike Mitchell as maybe the best back in this room, but like early in the season, we're still determining that. So he needs to get a go. And Stanley is another guy fired up. This is the kind of game too, where like Charlie Vincent, I'd love to see him get into the end zone, right? Just someone who always comes to work every day for Utah. So that'd be something that would be awesome to see as well. I also want to do some defensive predictions. I think Logan Fano leads his Utah defense in sacks coming back here. I think he's supposed to play in this first game. Everything we saw, they don't put out an injury report, of course. So I do remember he's coming off that injury. So I think he was good to go. If it's not Logan Fano, I'll play it safe and say Connor O'Toole. I think Utah in total gets 6 sacks in this game. I think they do really make it hard on the Thunderbirds. Just the exotic blitzes that Utah can come up with, and just straight up being able to win with 4. This is a game where I do think Paul Fitzgerald gets his first sack as a member of this Utah squad at 8.5 last year with Utah State. So looking forward to him getting to work and joining Sack Lake City. Also, I think for the linebacking core, I think Sione Fotu. This is a game where he's going to look really good. I think he's going to have 10 to 12 tackles. We'll see him on the field a lot. When Utah separates Lander and Karene, get him out of there. They both had some injuries in the past. Lander coming off a season-ending injury. So let Fotu get out there. He had his up and down moments last year. I think he'll look much stronger this fall, and this is a nice tune-up game for him. And as for my prediction on who's getting the pick 6, I'm going with Keenan Johnson, the Georgia Tech transfer, making quite the impact in his first game inside Rice-Eccles Stadium. And to top it off with predictions, I'm going 55-17 Utah.
Yeah, I don't know if I said it for sure or not, but I said 52-10 in my head at least. Yeah. I might have said it when I previously spoke as well. But yeah 52-10 is my prediction. I really struggled to see Southern Utah generating any sort of offense. I think they're going to really struggle running the football. First of all, Utah's just going to dominate them in the trenches. They'll be behind the sticks because of that, and that's going to make it really hard for them to throw the ball and consistently move the chains, because that's going to give Utah a lot of freedom to blitz on even on third down. They're going to be bringing the house, obviously, and they have the personnel to be able to send 7 guys and still be able to hang it in the defensive backfield, especially against a team like Southern Utah. So I just expect them to be behind the sticks for the vast majority of this game. And that's not going to really help them out when it comes to field position either, because they'll be punting deep in their own territory, giving Utah great field position. And I mean, like I said, I don't expect Utah's throw game to really be on full display here, because I think they're going to have a lot of short field, and I think they're going to have a lot of big type gashing runs, between 10, 15 yards, that sort of thing, and a lot of short drives because of that. I expect a potent first half, like I said, 35-3, and then for them to just kind of keep pounding the rock in the second half and get out of there as quickly as possible.
I totally agree. And what's exciting is we're pretty much done talking about it. Utah versus Southern Utah. It's getting underway tonight. Before we get out of here on this episode, want to give some final season stat projections. I think Cam Rising has a chance to end up in New York City. It's going to need some pretty nice numbers in order to achieve that. How's Brant Keithy, Dorian Singer? Which one of them will lead Utah in receiving yards? That's what we are going to be discussing in one moment. But first, want to talk with you all about our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. You've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel lately, right? America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial for NFL Sunday Ticket with YouTube and YouTube TV. That's right. With your YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and your current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time at all. We're all fired up to bet on the college football action, but NFL action is just around the corner. Are the Chiefs going to beat the Ravens once again like they did last year? How about all the other week 1 NFL action? And I know I mentioned week 1 college football, but it's a great slate. I was going to say Ohio State Akron, so that is not going to be a good one. But look at Notre Dame taking on Texas A&M, Miami versus Florida. Maybe one also be a good one, depending on how Florida looks. We know how they looked last year in their week 1 opener, so we'll see if they can bounce back from that one. But lots of great games going on. Make sure you guys head over to FanDuel today to check out everything FanDuel has going on as the sports season gets ramped up. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn, capital LNO, to download, and one word, Locked On, to download America's #1 sportsbook today. Also, I want to talk with you all about another one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at Factor. Feel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like a protein plus, keto, calorie smart. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting food. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? Factor offers over 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. You'll always have a new flavor to explore. Crush your wellness goals this May with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. You can treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, blackened salmon, and so much more. You can head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50, all one word, and 50 at the end. That is with the number 50, not spelled out, LockedOnCollege50, and use that code to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Head over to Factor today. All right, Dante, real quick, let's make some season predictions stat-wise for the Utah Utes. As I said, I had Utah winning the Big 12, and I do think they're in for just massive things this fall. So in order to achieve that, Cam Rising's going to have to be really good. When you look at the weapons surrounding him, I think this offensive line is going to be better than it was last year. The play calling and Cam's control of the system, I think Cam's in for a monster season. I have him going for over 3,500 passing yards, 35 total touchdowns. And I think he's only going to throw 5 interceptions. So I think he's going to be absolutely spectacular this year in what will be true. I know we all give him crap for his age, but this is really only year 3 for him on the field with Andy Ludwig. But all that time in the classroom with him, even when he's been hurt, I think will really pay dividends September through maybe even January.
Let's hope so. I think that's a great take, honestly. I love the over 30 total touchdowns. I too agree that he's going to, or 35 total touchdowns, he said. I think he'll end up with between 30 and 35. If he were to get above 35, I'd absolutely love that. That'd fire me up so much. But I think that's pushing it a little bit. I think that Utah's I think they're going to be winning in a lot of games. And because of that, they're going to lean less on Cam Rising. And I think in the second half, we're going to see them run the ball a lot. And because of that, I think Mike Mitchell is going to have a monster season. Maybe early on, there's going to be a couple of growing pain type weeks because, like we mentioned before, he is a freshman, and there are a couple other guys kind of next to him on the depth chart. But I do expect him to separate himself as kind of not necessarily a workhorse. I feel like that's a little bit of an aggressive term, but the closest thing that this team will see to a clear-cut running back one. How that's exactly going to manifest itself, I think time will tell. But I do expect Mike Mitchell to be the one leading the team in rushes consistently during the back end of the season. And because of that, I think he'll rush for more than I'll say he'll rush for more than 800 yards this season. Touchdowns, I think, might be a little bit tougher to come by because Jalen Glover, I think, is going to be a very solid goal line back. I mean, he's good in those tight spaces, and he's got a lot of power as well. So I think for Mitchell to overtake him when it comes to goal line work might be a little bit of a stretch, though I wouldn't completely rule that out. But I do see Jalen Glover getting the majority of the goal line work out of the three running backs, and Mekhi to be the guy to be targeted out of the backfield like he has been throughout his entire Utah career. But like, I mean, that's what's perfect about this running back group, because they all have their specific skill and what they're going to bring to the table. And I think that's going to just complement. They're going to complement each other greatly. And because of that, the offense greatly. You know, you need a strong rushing attack to open up the passing attack. And when you have a team with the personnel like Utah, the playbook is so open when you run the ball well, when you look at play action or just taking deep shots in general, or getting all your guys involved, you know, because Dorian Singer is going to draw a lot of double teams, which is going to open up a lot more opportunities for other players. And it's going to be great to watch this Utah offense just unfold, and to witness the cause and effect and see like, oh, this happened because so-and-so set so-and-so up. You know, it's going to be, they're going to be working together very fluently, and it's going to be special to watch, especially coming to the Big 12 and maybe feeling like they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, not getting invite to the Big 10 or the SEC, and obviously still having an opportunity to get a bye in the college football playoff just by finishing as the conference champions. Most likely, I feel like that's safe to say. Or, well, it is safe to say. I keep forgetting. It's like Power 4. It's such a weird term to me. It's going to take some getting used to, but that's the reality of the situation now. So I feel like if Utah wins the conference, which I do expect them to, I think Oklahoma State's on the road is going to be a very tough team to play. Ollie Gordon is, I mean, he's just electric, simply put. But then again, I do expect Utah to scout well and to maneuver their way through the conference schedule confidently and not with ease, but comfortably, I think is a good way to put it. Similarly to how we've seen them operate throughout the Pac-12 seasons. You know, I mean, it's crazy to think about Utah's first season winning the Pac-12. I mean, Oregon came to Rice Eccles as the number 3 team in the nation. They beat Ohio State that season. I mean, they had all the momentum, the Oregon Ducks that year. They were 9-1 coming into Rice Eccles as well, I believe, and just got trounced. You know, so to see Utah come into a game like that confidently and to do what they did, it was extremely special then, and I expect that to carry over into this season and for them to bring their A game in those big games, especially Arizona. I'm so excited for that game because obviously the Arizona game last year was a big bummer, and with them coming to Rice Eccles now, I think they're really going to come into that game with a chip on their shoulder and ready to reclaim what's theirs in the series against Arizona, I guess, because that game last season was such a bummer. And Arizona is a very talented team nonetheless, but Utah's going to come into that game with something to prove, I think. And I think that's going to be the game that, I mean, the Oklahoma State game as well, because that's the first game on the conference schedule. But those two games are going to be where Utah really showcases their dominance and gives the college football world a taste of what they can do on the football field come time for the playoff.
I can't wait for it. And before we get there, I'm so excited to watch this team go to work. A couple other predictions just wanted to throw out there. I do think Brant Keithy will narrowly lead this team in receiving yards yet again. I think Dorian Singer will be right behind him. And I still go back and forth between Money Parks and Damian Alford for who I think will be next. Right now, I'll stick with Damian Alford, even though Money Parks was ahead of him on the depth chart. We'll just wait and see how that shakes out. I do think Landon King's also going to contribute a lot. And I think Dallin Bentley winning the backup job, he'll be another guy in the mix there too. But I do think King will finish as the second leader in tight end receiving yardage. Going there. Defensively, I do think Connor O'Toole leads this team in sacks. I think he is going to get to 10 or more sacks this year. I think Logan Fano will also be phenomenal. I'm picking Lander Barton to have the best season we've seen out of a Utah linebacker since Devin Lloyd. I think he'll lead the team in tackles and be all over the field. Secondary-wise, I'll go with Teo Johnson to lead this team in interceptions, but it's going to be so much fun to see this squad all working together as one. And that's it. We're done talking about what this team could do, making predictions. The season is here, and I am absolutely fired up about it as I toss my hat for those of you who are listening on the audio portion. And Dante also fired up because you sat down with me, my friend. Thanks again for joining me.
Of course. Appreciate you for having me, JT, as always.
That's going to do it for Locked On Utes today. The next time I'm talking with you guys, I will be reacting to a Utah football game. Let's go. I can't wait to see what Utah is going to do against Southern Utah. Make sure you guys join us again tomorrow as I will be reacting to that game. The season is here. I hope you all enjoy Thursday night inside Rice Eccles Stadium.